Hammer, we learned why Mike Brown is growing a beard. Were you around for that part of media?
Yeah, it was a bit strange. I got to be honest.
Mike probably recognizes the team is going through it, and he looks a little scraggly right now. So he felt like he needed to explain to you guys, like, "Hey, I'm not stressed out living in the film room. I actually just have a zit that popped poorly."
Yeah, I don't think that was a weird part. I think the fact that his significant other usually takes care of that for him is what made it weird. So
So
Yeah, I didn't
Dr.
know
Brown
about that. Yeah.
pill popper.
Well,
Oh,
wait a minute. Takes care of the
the
pimple
zit,
popping or the
yes,
shaving?
no, the
the zit.
pimple popping.
Oh, that's not weird.
That's weird.
Happens in my house.
Okay, that's weird. Like, I don't want to know what happens in
Now
your
we
house.
know too much.
It's terrible.
Can't take it back.
The show has gone to hell ever
Uh,
since Mike Brown's zit
That's
came up.
relatively normal.
That's not normal. That's gross. That's gross. James, this team stinks. It's not a question.
Yeah, they're in the midst of a I don't know, like an identity crisis.
Oh, 6-7, man.
Yeah, this is about as bad as it gets for a good team. And that's, I hate saying that because I know everyone's going to say, well, they're not a good team. They still have a ton of talent, and there's no reason for them to be this bad other than self-inflicted wounds. I mean, they don't defend the three-point line. That's a huge issue. You can't just get outscored 69-36 from behind the arc. You beat them in every single category possible except for the three-point line. You had more points off of turnovers. You had more points in the paint. You had more fast break points, and it wasn't even close. You dominated them in every single one of those categories. Rebounds, offensive rebounds. Like, you beat them in the hustle points, and then you lose. And you lose because you do the same exact thing you've done every other game this season. You don't get out to 3-point shooters, and they torch you. Like the San Antonio Spurs came into this season, and I believe their franchise record for made three-pointers was 21. They got you for 22 the first time and set a new franchise record, and now they got you again for 23 and set a new franchise record again. That's just, like, at some point, something has to change, and the Kings have to figure out how to defend. That's it.
Yeah. Can't wait to see what happens Friday. What sort of come to Sky River Casino and find out what record the San Antonio Spurs break.
Friday is one thing, but I'm not looking forward to Tuesday night at all.
Oh God, no.
The whole week. The whole week
Memphis,
is a problem.
Yeah.
Memphis is playing great basketball right now.
Yep.
The whole week is a problem. And this is the thing about the Western Conference and the NBA in general. Nobody's gonna take it easy on you. Everybody's looking at you like food right now if you're the Sacramento Kings. And Houston is gonna come into the Golden One Center. They might have some. Gotta check. They might have some NBA Cup implications going on. I thought they were leading the group, but maybe they're trying to survive with the NBA Cup or seeding or whatever the case may be. But yeah, you're gonna have to look inward. You're gonna have to look at the guy next to you, everybody in that locker room, to get out of this, because nobody's gonna take it easy on you.
Yeah, I think Mike was the first one to say, like, look, the accountability, we all have to be accountable. He said it starts with him. He said he has to be more accountable. He's got to give them better opportunities to win. He's got to make whatever changes possible. But I think we all know that the one thing you did not believe that Mike was going to do was start Malik Monk. And when that happened, that's the last bullet in your gun. Yep. You're standing there looking at your pistol saying, okay, I got one shot left and there's 7 of them. Or in this case, 61 left. Like, what do you got after that? And I've been someone who has been around enough head coaches that, like, look, Mike Brown is not the only head coach that would have used Malik Monk in this same exact way, that would have kept Malik Monk as a 6-man to change everything coming off the bench. But when you get to a point that you go 162 games without starting Malik and you pull the trigger, and you know that once you pull that trigger, it's done and you can't go back. That was a big move by Mike, and here we are. This is like a last ditch effort, and you hope that it has the sort of the game-changing, effect that Mike and this team needs. But same time, now it's on Monty. You need to go find another Malik Monk because he's now a starter, and your bench is not good enough, and you need to go find another guy that can put up 25 points on any given night. And that, again, that's how this thing works. You want offensive firepower, you want to move him into the starting lineup. Okay. Like, it's tough to balance it out now.
Do you think he did that out of desperation?
Yeah. Yeah. I think so. For sure. Like, I think he did that out of desperation. Look, this team is desperate. The franchise is desperate. Like,
Mhm.
and what other options do you have? Because there are people in that, in the building that have wanted this, that are Malik Monk, on Malik Monk's side on this. And again, I don't think that Mike did anything wrong by not starting Malik. I don't, because now, we all talk about Keegan Murray kind of disappearing and going to a shell. He's not your fifth option. And if you thought it was bad before, now it's even worse. He's not even a real option in the offense with the starting group. And that's just because you have all your firepower loaded up into the starting lineup. And again, you guys can agree or disagree with whether that makes sense, but that you still need to have somebody score off the bench, because you can't get outscored every single night by 15, 20 points off the bench. And that's kind of the path that they're heading down at this point. Just going to try to let the starters save the day.
Okay, so we're talking about in the building. How, in your opinion, how tense is the situation, do you think, in the Kings front office right now? And what I mean by that is, is Vivek getting a little itchy, and is he getting a little impatient? And do you think jobs are on the line for this season? Not they'll be, they could be gone at the end of the season, but are we getting close to a point where in the middle of the season, jobs could be on the line?
Man, I hope not. But I've been through this too many times. There are cracks all over in this foundation. So you either figure this thing out quickly, or those cracks are going to get bigger and bigger. And I hope that they figured this thing out, because I think the ramifications of switching coaches midstream here, it's disastrous. It never works out. So few times can you go back and look at something that just worked. And that's not just in certainly in Sacramento, it's never worked. I can guarantee you that. I can go through the history of the Kings and how many people have taken over midseason. It's never once had any positive impact at all. And so, you can be a Mike Brown fan or not a Mike Brown fan, but at a certain point, you're kind of committed. And to be honest, you should be committed. You should make a hire that makes sense for your franchise. You should stand by that hire. You should go out and supplement the roster to make sure that you are backing up that hire. And then if things go south like they have, you got to make changes. And sometimes that means you got to rip a Band-Aid off with your draft picks, or with players that aren't working out, and try to improve the roster. But just blowing everything up again, how's that going to work out? Because if you let go of one and it doesn't turn around, you're letting go of the other at the end of the summer anyways. And so this whole thing unwinds. And when you
And
do
De'Aaron's
that,
gone. The
yeah.
whole thing, the whole operation falls apart after that.
Yeah. After that, what are you going to do with De'Aaron?
The whole operation falls apart without hope of fixing it.
Yep. Yeah. So it's a house of cards, man. And, this isn't the first time that I've been in this exact same situation where you're looking at it like, hey, how's this going to work out? And the one thing you can't do is say, okay, well, maybe you'll hire another coach midstream, because we've seen how that plays out too. Then you get the whole, new coach on a 3-year contract and GM on a 1-year deal, and, things start to go sideways again. So look, I hope we're not talking doom and gloom. I hope they figure out how to turn it around. And it starts with like accountability with players and coaches. But I think everybody, the coaches and the players are saying the right things, and they feel like they're still together. I don't feel like there's this mass dissension. I just feel like they get out there, and whether it's schematic or it's effort or whatever it is, this team just piles up the mistakes. And not to like beat up on Keon Ellis, but like, you can't make the mistakes that he made in that game. You can't go out there and get angry about an offensive foul. I mean, about a foul that you thought you should have got on one end, and then go like chest bump a guy with 1.6 seconds left in a half, or in the third quarter with the team on the opposite end of the court. They weren't even going to get a shot up, and you just gave them 2 points. Or you can't let a guy walk into a 3-pointer to end the first quarter from half court and not even defend anybody at all, and go from a 17-point lead to a 14-point lead going into the second quarter. But you gave them life. And it's these little tiny mistakes that this team makes. And again, everyone loves Isaac Jones. I love Isaac Jones, but Isaac Jones, like, unfortunately went out and like picked up a bunch of fouls in the early fourth quarter. It's same with Keon. Next thing you know, they're shooting free throws. And they're shooting free throws with 10 minutes left in the fourth. Like, that's how you lose games. That's how you lose close games. And it's these little tiny things that add up. And this game, it might have been Keon. It might have been a couple of mistakes. Certainly the Colby Jones minutes haven't been good. It might have been a little bit of Isaac Jones, just little mistakes here and there. But let's choose any of the other games. I can tell you, like, you can't have Malik Monk, De'Aaron Fox, and Amontis Sabonis have 15 turnovers combined. Each of them have 5. You can't have that. So, it's not just the other guys. I keep hearing that you've had all this time to build the team around these guys. A lot of times it is 7 turnovers, 8 turnovers, 6 turnovers by your star level players. And that's really tough.
Hammer, why does it feel like there's so many with the Kings? They have like games within the games. Like you start Malik Monk for the first time in Malik's existence in the Sacramento Kings uniform. You come out, you score 42 points. The ball's moving all over the place. I think they had like 13 assists in the first quarter, something crazy like that. And then it's just like either the Spurs made the greatest in-game adjustment in history, or things just kind of like halted. And that happens a lot.
I think that's one question, right? Because I think we're all sitting here like looking at the same thing, like, hey, why'd you stop going to the pick and roll again and again and again? But then the flip side of it is, how is it that other teams are able to make the adjustment on you, but a team will bust you for 13 3-pointers in the first half, and next thing you know, they're up to 23. You're not making the other adjustment. And I watched, the Wembanyama Chris Paul pick and roll for like 8 straight plays in the fourth quarter. And I didn't think the Kings were horrible defensively on it. They sagged off of Chris Paul twice and he burned them for shots. Victor Wembanyama passed over the top. He couldn't really put the ball on the deck against smaller players. He knew better than that, but he still found, he found cross-court passes for wide open threes. And so, like, look, I think that there was enough positive, but my question is, like, how is it that your team is not making the adjustments? And we're not, like, they've had 10 games with 15 or more 3-pointers that they've given up. They've got another 5 where they've given up 14 or more 3-pointers. So we're talking about 15 out of 21 games, you've given up 14 or more 3-pointers. Last year, you averaged 13 that you gave up per game. That just doesn't make any sense. That's really, really tough.
Yeah, and it just seems like there's a philosophy that needs to change with how they scheme and how they game plan to defend the 3. And I talked about it earlier, James. Whatever your reasoning for how you defend right now, you got to throw that out the window because it's not working. And you're dying out here by people routinely, like you mentioned, hitting 15, 17, 21 threes on you. Combine that with the fact that you can only make 9. It seems like on a given night. Like, it's just not the way to go about things. And I think everybody, coaching staff included, got to start looking themselves in the mirror. And I'm not saying they're not. I'm just saying, like, they've got to figure something else out here.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's unfortunate we're in this situation. We talked to Keegan Murray today, and he seems fine. He said, "Yeah, I'm fine. Like, I'm just not hitting shots, and I'm trying to do other things to like impact winning. That's what I'm trying to do. The shots will go. Like, I'll figure it out. It's just a matter of time." And so, like, there isn't some panic, but when we asked DeMar DeRozan, I asked DeMar very specifically about how you support as a veteran, how you go support a guy like Keegan, who's clearly going through it. I mean, there's no question that Keegan Murray, you can see it, even though he doesn't have a lot of facial expressions, you can still see the frustration. And he said, like, look, I don't think, he's like, when he first started playing, there wasn't all this social media. There wasn't, if someone wanted to say something nasty about you, they might say it on the radio, write it in the newspaper, and you had to go buy the newspaper to read it. He's like, now it's just constant, and everyone is analyzing Keegan Murray and why he's not hitting his shots, and they're piling on. And it's just, it becomes like a really, really heavy burden for a young person and a young player to deal with when you're being, when you're put under the microscope and you can't figure out a way out of whatever hole you're in. And so I get it. It's just really, it's tough to watch.
Pretty uncalled for, if you ask me, Kenny Caraway. Man, pretty uncalled for.
Love you, Keegan. Love you, man.
Well, don't play him the beginning of this show. James, you got to go be a soccer dad, man. We'll catch up with you.
One of those days. Thanks,
good,
guys.
Man. We appreciate you. Thanks for carving out a few minutes for us. James Ham, soccer dad extraordinaire.